Welcome back to another Post Media Senators panel. I'm Bruce Garrioch with Ken Warren, and we're pleased to be joined today by Senators President of Business Operations, Anthony LeBlanc. And as we sit down today, Anthony, you've got quite a few home games left, and you've been able to get this season.
I mean, it's still, it's a strange situation when you're in the building and there's no fans. But it's sadly it's becoming a bit more the norm. But I think that we're confident that next season we'll be in a situation where we will be able to welcome fans back. I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing, on the vaccination front, because I think that is going to be a big part of us here in Canada being able to welcome fans into our buildings. And of course, I'm encouraged with what I'm seeing down south of the border, where I believe it's 14 teams have some level of fans attending, with another, I think, 5 getting ready to bring more in. So we're starting, so we're sitting back and we're watching what's happening south of the border. We're working with our colleagues here with the other 6 Canadian teams. And as I said, we're hopeful that, I wouldn't say I'm optimistic that we'll have fans for this season at any point. If we do, that would be fantastic. But next season, we are optimistic.
It's funny you say that. This season, we're going back into a red zone. I know you're a dollars and cents guy and trying to figure out how this all works. Do you find yourself looking at the medical reports before you look at the summaries every morning to try to figure out how, shake your head and go Groundhog Day all over again?
Yeah, I'm not pandering to my friends here from Post Media, but my first website I go to every morning is Ottawa-Citizen, and you're right, I don't go to the sports page. I go to the COVID pages and see what the update is. So yeah, I mean, yes, we are going back into the red zone, but overall, I think if you compare us to other jurisdictions, certainly in Canada and definitely in the United States and globally, I think we have been moving in the right direction. I give full marks to Dr. Etches and her staff for the hard work they're doing and the hard decisions that they're making and recommending. We've got to get out of this thing. The last thing we need is, another full-on lockdown, and I'm hopeful we don't get to that point. But yeah, like everybody, I'm focused on what it means for us as a business. But unfortunately, we're one of those businesses that, as I've said to people, we didn't get slowed down; we got shut down. And not being able to bring any fans into the building has been a very, very, it's put some significant headwinds against us on a financial standpoint.
Do you think that when you look at the situation you're in right now, you talked a lot, I think it was in December, Anthony, about the fact that you pretty much are going to focus your season ticket sales on next season. Have you had good engagement there from the fans?
We have, and it kind of goes in ebbs and flows. The first part of the season, there was a lot of excitement after the opening day win, and then of course we had a bit of a downswing on the ice, so things petered out a little bit. But over the last month or so, there is a lot of enthusiasm, and the phones are ringing. So that's the good news. So we've got a much reduced staff in regards to ticket sales, and even on the corporate side. Although on the corporate side, we've done, everything's relative, but we've done very well on the corporate side with some of these new assets that the NHL's introduced. Obviously, the helmet decals, the tarps that you see around the arena. And when you're watching our TSN broadcast, we're currently the only Canadian team that are utilizing the in-ice virtual slot advertising on the ice. So that's encouraging. We've had a really good uptick on the corporate side. But yeah, on the ticket side, it's certainly not as robust as we would hope. But to your point, Bruce, yes, we are focused on next season. If miraculously we can bring people into the building this year, what we have said is you've got to be on a priority list. And how you're on a priority list is you're either first and foremost an existing season seat member, or you have a deposit for next season. So that's really where we're focused. But I would say over the next, ironically, I'm catching up with Eugene on this very topic today on staffing and starting to focus on next season in a real manner. Usually in a normalized season, we start a heavy push on renewals in March. So I would say, in the next 3 to 4 weeks is when we're going to really need to start ramping up those efforts.
Anthony, you got your history in Ottawa, obviously going back to the days when that building was sold, the boxes were sold. It's a different experience. I know you walk into this thing and it's a completely different world here, but big picture, how do you get those fans back and get that building filled? I know it's a long-term thing now. How do you get that building filled again? What do fans want? What do they really want to see?
So, and obviously we're getting some wind in our sails in regards to where people's feelings are for this club in the future. Even right now, I mean, yes, we've had, a couple of games, most recently that we've lost either in overtime or in the shootout, but they were both great come from behind wins. The team never backed down. And I say that there's a lot of optimism about where this club is going. So, I'm relying on the work that Pierre and DJ and Eugene are doing on the hockey ops front, which is helping us. There's no doubt. But on the flip side, we have a job to do, which is engaging with the fan base, engaging with the corporate sponsorship group, the premium customers. And we're doing that. We're doing that right now. But those will really ramp up over the next month.
I'm intrigued. You talk about, everything you have to do by remotely. You're in competition with 30 other teams, soon to be 31 other teams. Are you sharing ideas about how people are trying to get people back in the rink, or you have to change strategies, I'm assuming, with everything that's happened here? Do you guys go back and forth with your colleagues around the league on how they're dealing with ever-changing circumstances here?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ken, and a lot of people don't realize that on the business side, obviously on the hockey side, Pierre isn't sharing secrets with his colleagues, but on the business side, it is a wide open discussion. As a matter of fact, yesterday we had a league-wide president's call where all of the team presidents, along with some of our senior people, were on the phone, and it was exactly that. We were talking about how we collaborate as a group, how we learn from other teams, and as a matter of fact, I received an email from the league last night that they're continuing to explore the best ways from a health and safety perspective to bring people back into the buildings. So we all collaborate, and that's always been the case. When I was in Arizona for 4 years, very collaborative with my colleagues like Luke Robitaille over in LA, Sean Henry in Nashville. These are guys that I work very closely with. So now I still collaborate with those guys, but it's more North Division centric.
Just a couple more things before we go here. Well, you touched on being in Arizona, and Joey Decourt played Arizona State University, and you actually have a connection with that hockey program, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we were strong partners with Arizona State, and as a club, we came very close. We actually put an agreement together to build an NHL facility on the campus at ASU, but unfortunately that fell apart. But prior to that, I had been introduced to the athletic director at ASU, Ray Anderson, who's still there, who had this vision, working with Coach Greg Powers, of building this hockey program, an NCAA hockey program in the desert. And I remember at first thinking it was nuts. But, these guys really had a vision, and Joey was one of the first guys that they brought in. So, unfortunately, he played for ASU after I had left the Coyotes. But, I reached out to both Ray and Coach Powers after Joey's first win, and they were over the moon. It was really a great moment for them. Obviously, first kid drafted from their program, first kid to play in the NHL, and now first NHL win. It was just a great moment for that program. So I'm so happy for those guys.
Kenny, I'll let you go ahead here, but if I'm not mistaken, I think they flew into Buffalo for his first game too. Those guys when he made his debut a couple of years ago. And go ahead, Kenny, and then we'll wrap up with me.
Yeah, well, just maybe a final thought on you here. You started off about trying to, not trying. I mean, you have to be optimistic, but just in the minds of fans, I guess, wondering what's next here and what they should look forward to on the business side of things. Is there anything in the cards that you can throw out there to say, hey, there's optimism down the road here?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're obviously relying on, the governmental authorities to tell us when we can bring fans back. And there's no way we're looking to bring fans back until we know we can do it safely. Eugene's been very clear that, we are not going to put ourselves in a position to be a super spreader event. So we're working very aggressively behind the scenes on, there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be, we'll be going to more than likely a cashless environment. We'll be going to a ticketless environment where everything's done on your phones. We're moving to as touchless as possible. The food and beverage experience will be different. But all of those things we're working on to have in place. But I think what fans can look forward to over the short term is we are focusing on, Obviously there's the new uniforms that were introduced this year, the new old uniforms that were introduced this year, but we're also focusing on a new branding campaign with a couple of very big hitter agencies here in Canada. So you'll start seeing some new marketing efforts from us over the next couple of months. And really, there's going to just be a big push to get people back in the building. So I am optimistic next year will start to return to normal, but I hope that my optimism proves true.
One last thing before we go. You seem to have embrace the Sens movement. Has that been a fun thing in what's been a difficult time?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have to be somewhat lighthearted about the origins of that that campaign wasn't the most positive, but through those types of grassroots movements, people have embraced it and said, look, they've used it as kind of almost a protective mechanism when people are giving them grief about being Sens fans, and I think it's great. I mean, we like the fact that, look, the worst thing in the world for a sports team would be if people don't care. And one thing that has been proven by the very strong fan base here is they really care. So, we need to embrace whatever manner we can, the fan base that is showing us their efforts and their emotions. But I think if you follow that movement, so to speak, it started off as I said, in a more dire situation, but I think there's a lot of optimism brewing out of that. So we encourage it. Keep it going. We think it's great.
Well, thanks to Senators President of Business Operations, Anthony LeBlanc, for joining us today. For Post Media in Ottawa with Ken Warren, I'm Bruce Garrioch.